Good evening. The difference between the possible and impossible lies in a man's determination. Welcome to BMC News Live in English, brought to you by Al Hilal Hospital and Medical Centers. I am Vinod Narayanan, joining you with the daily news updates. Today's headlines. His Majesty the King affirmed keenness to consolidate independence of the judiciary. Industry Minister reviewed investments cooperation with China. Providing decent housing and improving citizens' living standards top national priorities, said Speaker. Saudi announced launch of single stock futures contracts. UK waived visa rules for GCC nationals from 2023. News in detail. His Majesty the King affirms keenness to consolidate independence of the judiciary. His Majesty the King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa has affirmed his keenness to consolidate the independence of the judiciary as well as support the judicial branch and provide it with qualified competencies, given the major role it plays in preserving rights and enhancing the security and stability of the Bahraini society. His Majesty the King expressed pride in the deep-rooted history of the kingdom's judiciary, as well as in pioneering achievements it continues to attain, being essential for achieving the aspired for justice. His Majesty King Hamad made the statements while receiving at the Al Sakhir Palace the Supreme Judicial Council Vice President and Court of Cassation President Sheikh Khalid bin Ali bin Abdullah Al Khalifa and Constitutional Court President Chancellor Abdullah bin Hassan Ahmed Al Buyanin, who took the official oaths before His Majesty the King following the issuance of royal orders appointing them to their new posts. His Majesty the King received a letter from Saudi monarch. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received a letter from custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, including an invitation to attend a joint summit between the GCC leaders, Jordanian monarch, Egyptian president, Iraqi prime minister, and the US president, which will be hosted by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia next month. The letter was handed over to His Majesty the King by Saudi ambassador to the Kingdom of Bahrain, His Royal Highness Prince Sultan bin Ahmed bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, during a meeting with His Majesty at Sakhir Palace. His Majesty the King expressed thanks and appreciation to the custodian of the two holy mosques for the invitation, praising solid historical fraternal relations between the two brotherly countries and peoples. He also lauded continuous cooperation and coordination at all levels. His Majesty commended the efforts of the custodian of the two holy mosques to further strengthen the Bahraini-Saudi relations and develop joint Gulf work. He also lauded his efforts to deepen relations and cooperation between brotherly people as well as promote security, stability and peace in the region. Saudi-Bahrain Political Coordination Committee held meeting. The Political Coordination Committee of the Saudi-Bahraini Coordination Council has today held its second meeting. The committee is chaired by His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, and Saudi Crown Prince, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defense, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. The meeting was co-chaired by Foreign Minister Dr. Abdul Latif bin Rashid Al Zayani and his Saudi counterpart, the Royal Highness Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud. His Royal Highness Prince Faisal expressed thanks to His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa for his directives which focus on further strengthening bilateral relations between the two countries. Deputy Prime Minister praised Bahrain Engineers Society efforts. Deputy Prime Minister and Infrastructure Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa met Bahrain Engineers Society Board of Directors member and President of Raida Al Alawi. The meeting came on the occasion of choosing the newly appointed engineer Raida Al Alawi as the first woman to head the society since its founding in 1972. In addition to integrating youth energies into the society, Deputy Prime Minister and Infrastructure Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa praised the contributions of Bahraini engineers, their active role and participation in the construction and industrial development witnessed by the kingdom under the leadership of His Majesty the King, and the support and interest of His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. Industry Minister reviewed investments cooperation with China. Minister of Industry and Commerce Syed Rashid Al Zayani received Chinese Ambassador to Bahrain Anwar Habibullah. The meeting discussed bilateral relations and ways to strengthen their cooperation mechanisms in all fields, particularly industry, commerce and investments, as well as discussing issues of common interest. The minister highlighted Bahrain's economic environment that attracts investments of all types and ranges, praising in this regard the great impact of the mutual visits between officials and businessmen from both countries, which achieves the required growth in these relations and reflects on the scale of commerce and economic cooperation between both sides. Arab frontline cadres to be honored with Voluntary Work Award. Cabinet Affairs Ministry Under Secretary, Honorary President of the Good Word Society, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Ali Al Khalifa, stated that in appreciation of the cadres working on the front lines to combat the COVID-19, the 12th edition of the Voluntary Work Award has been allocated to honor the Arab cadres working in the front lines, who had and still have clear contributions in their societies through their noble humanitarian actions during the coronavirus pandemic. His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Ali Al Khalifa praised the efforts and courage of the frontline workers in safeguarding the community, pointing out the role of the award in promoting the culture of dedication and patriotism. He added that the award reflects the directives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and the prominent and dedicated national efforts of His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, Crown Prince and Prime Minister, to promote the values of volunteerism as a pillar of growth and development. Speaker discussed Bahrain-Russia bilateral and economic relations. Speaker Fawzia bint Abdullah Zainal met with the Russian businessman delegation. The meeting discussed bilateral relations and highlighted the economic, commercial and parliamentary cooperation. Zainal praised Bahrain-Russia relations under the leadership of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and Russian President Vladimir Putin. She stressed the importance of cooperation in various fields. The speaker hailed the cooperation between the Bahrain Business Women's Association headed by Ahlam Janahi and business women in Russia to serve common interests. Zainal highlighted bilateral trade relations in the commercial, industrial, investment and energy sectors. The Russian delegation praised Bahrain's economic position on an international level as a strategic financial hub. Electricity and Water Authority sustainable achievements highlighted. Newly appointed Electricity and Water Authority Chairman Kamal bin Ahmed Mohammed hailed the efforts of his predecessor Sheikh Nawaf bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa during his tenure. He commended Electricity and Water Authority's achievements during his tenure, which yielded outstanding programs and strategies that supported the sector of electricity and water. Addressing a handover ceremony, he stressed keenness on building on achievements in line with the wide-ranging development led by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, hailing the support of His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa. The Crown Prince and Prime Minister Sheikh Nawaf bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa congratulated his successor on his appointment, thanking all Electricity and Water Authority staff for their dedicated work and efforts which contributed to the sustainability of the electricity and water sectors. Providing decent housing and improving citizens' living standards top national priorities, said Speaker. Speaker of the Council of Representatives, Fawzia bint Abdullah Zainal, has asserted that providing decent housing, launching diverse house projects, and finding innovative solutions to meet the living needs of the citizens have always been and remain at the forefront of the national efforts of the legislative and executive branches, in line with the directives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. She commended the role played by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning in meeting housing demands, providing the best services, and implementing housing projects commensurate with the citizens' needs. She praised the ministry's unwavering keenness to improve the quality of its services, enhance performance and increase the achievements of the government, led by His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. Bahrain to introduce MIR payment system soon. Bahrain reportedly plans to introduce MIR, a Russian payment system for tourists, soon. Reports quoting Ambassador of Bahrain to Russia, Ahmad Abdurrahman Al Saithi, said Bahrain would deploy the system for the convenience of tourists. The announcement came during a meeting of Al Saithi with the head of Bashkira Rady Kabirov at SPIAF 2022. According to Kabirov, they were supposed to meet in 2020, but the pandemic delayed it. Mir is a Russian payment system for electronic funds transfers established by the Central Bank of Russia under a law adopted on 1st May 2017. Russian National Card Payment System, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Central Bank of Russia, operates the system. Indecent public behavior to be cracked down in Bahrain. The role of local government inspectors could be expanded to help crack down on loutish and uncouth behavior, making life a misery for families in Manama. Capital Trustees Board members want to see a crackdown on public nuisance, mostly late at night and during the weekends. COVID drug helps in swift treatment. A top medical official has highlighted the effectiveness of the COVID-19 antiviral treatment for patients suffering from the virus. The head of the Antibody Clinic and National Task Force for Combating the Coronavirus, member Amal Jassim, stressed the use of the pill Paxlovid, authorized to treat newly infected at-risk people to prevent severe illness, which has been deemed a great success. It helps in swift treatment to those suffering from COVID-19, she said in a statement last night. It also helps lessen the severity in those showing low to medium symptoms. It also helps treat the symptoms which could lead to death. She pointed that Bahrain has among the leading countries which authorized the use of the pill. The drug is taken twice daily for 5 days orally. Patients should use pill during the 7 days of showing symptoms. Patients should weigh 40 kg or more to receive the treatment. In addition, those aged over 18 are given the drug regardless of the risk factors. However, from ages 12 to 17, those who suffer from one or more illnesses and are at most risk from COVID-19 can take the medication, including those suffering from diabetes, obesity, heart diseases, sickle cell, high blood pressure, and chronic lung disease. Bahrain bracing for another windy week, weather warning issued. Bahrain is bracing for another windy week, prompting the Transportation and Telecommunications Ministry's Meteorology Directorate to issue a weather warning. Strong gusts of wind could lead to dust, haze, and rising sand, with wind speeds reaching 27 knots today. Today's COVID updates. COVID updates brought to you by Al Hilal Hospital and Medical Centers. Al Hilal Multi-Speciality Medical Center, Salmabad, organized first aid and medical camp in Yatim Oxygen. Apart from the checking blood pressure and blood sugar for the participants, Al Hilal mini comprehensive coupons were also distributed at the event. Now we will be back after a very short break.
All your favorite products under one roof in Bahrain at 27-year-old Megamart and Macromart. Bakery, fresh meat and fish, fruits and vegetables, sweets and snacks, ready-to-eat foods, dairy products, grocery or consumer goods. Megamart and Macromart, full of goodness.
Welcome back. Saudi announced launch of single stock futures contracts. The Saudi Exchange has announced its intention to launch single stock futures contracts on July 4th, 2022, which will be cleared by the Securities Clearing Center company, Mukasa. SSFs will enable local and international investors to hedge and manage portfolio risks more effectively, as well as diversify products available for trading and hedging in the market. The selected underlying stocks for the SSFs to be launched have been chosen from the largest and most liquid companies listed on the Saudi Exchange. They are based on a list of criteria that aims to ensure liquidity in an effort to meet market demand, maintain market integrity, and enable effective portfolio management. UAE outlines actions to address global food crisis. UAE Minister of Climate Change and the Environment Miriam bint Mohammed Al Hayri has reiterated her country's commitment to collective action to address the global food crisis and prevent further hunger. Al Hayri was speaking at the Uniting for Global Food Security ministerial conference hosted by the German government in Berlin. The event brought together ministers from the G7 countries, key donor countries, and the most vulnerable and most affected countries, as well as representatives of UN organizations, philanthropists, and civil society to drive joint action to enhance global food security. In this context, she outlined 3 areas that can make an immediate and long-term difference. UAE news agency WAM reported they include championing generous social protection spending by international financial institutions, channeling investment into resilient food and water systems, such as drought-resistant crops and enhanced irrigation in fragile countries, and scaling up investment in innovation. UAE increased financial support for low-income citizens in Dubai. Financial support for limited-income citizens in Dubai has been increased to 58% this year to reach dirham 438 million. The amount will be distributed to existing beneficiaries registered with the Community Development Authority in Dubai, as well as new ones. Additionally, authorities have approved a 42% increase in financial benefits for low-income citizens to reach a total of dirham 394 million. Depending on additional needs of the beneficiary families, the increase ranges from 20 to 67%. Priority will be given to families with senior citizens, widows, and divorced women. Funding has been allocated to include young providers aged under 40 in the Dubai Financial Empowerment Program. UK waived visa rules for GCC nationals from 2023. GCC nationals will not need a visa to visit the UK from 2023. The British government announced today that citizens of the Gulf countries, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Oman, and Qatar will be brought under the Electronic Travel Authorization Scheme. Japan braced for power crunch as heat rises with end of rainy season. Japan prepared on Monday for a possible power crunch as temperatures climbed nationwide. The authorities warning of higher than expected demand as the rainy season entered in the capital Tokyo at the earliest since record keeping began. Less than 2 weeks ahead of an election for the upper house of parliament, surging electrical prices are making life tougher for Japanese customers. Following higher fuel costs, Reuters reported a power shortage could batter the fortunes of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, already under fire for its handling of higher consumer prices. Electricity demand has been staying above yesterday's forecast since this morning amid unseasonably intense heat. An official of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry told a news conference, adding that demand had outstripped predictions. With that, we come to the end of today's news. Stay tuned for daily news updates in BMC News Live English at 7:30 p.m. every day. I'm Vinod Narayanan signing off from BMC News Live. Good night.